Hello, welcome to Tech at Work Online. Today we will be talking about digital media with Jude Domski. My name is Melissa Nelson. I'm an AmeriCorps member at Vermont Works for Women. Vermont Works for Women is a nonprofit in Winooski, Vermont, and we help women, girls, and gender nonconforming individuals achieve economic independence in their lives. This takes a variety of forms for youth and adults, but for youth, this is mostly through career exploration programs, such as programs like this, Tech at Work. So what is Tech at Work? Tech at Work is a speaker series program that we do for primarily high school students at tech centers, and it functions to introduce these students to gender diverse role models in non-traditional career paths for women, girls, and gender nonconforming individuals. And so the point of Tech at Work is really to show these students that anyone can pursue these careers who wants to and who is passionate about those careers, and to show them people who are successful in those careers here in Vermont, in our community. And so that's what Tech at Work is. Before we switch it over to Jude, I am just going to show a little bit about what Jude does. So Jude is a freelance photographer and videographer, and so just to get a little bit of an idea, here are a few of the pictures she's taken, which she has sent along. So here we see few of the pictures, and so Jude really likes taking pictures that serve a particular mission for various organizations. So she wanted to highlight that all of these images serve that purpose and are towards that goal of really fulfilling a particular mission. These are just a few of the pictures she's taken. Okay, thank you for sharing your work with us, Jude. And now let's switch it over to Jude. Jude, if you would introduce yourself first, please.
Sure. Hi, my name is Jude Domski, and I'm a photographer and videographer.
Wonderful. And okay, so how did you first get into this career field? Why did you choose photography and videography?
Well, I had actually started in theater. I was a visual storyteller in performing arts, and I started doing some photography to record the performing art work that I was doing, and sort of enjoyed the ability to be able to practice and work in photography every day. In the performing arts, you need an ensemble and a group of people and a set schedule. And with photography, I can grab my camera and go out into the field and start working immediately without needing the other people's schedules to coincide. And was using photography and then video really to kind of continue that storytelling mission or passion to tell stories.
Wonderful, thank you. When did you know that this was the job that you wanted?
I don't know that there was an actual moment. I mean, I really segued from different forms of storytelling, and I moved from theater and sort of creating images to being more interested in capturing what was there and wanting to, use my skill set to find images that supported missions. A lot of what I do is work for nonprofits, places like Vermont Works for Women, to find images that support what they're doing. And for me, that was sort of a natural continuation of the work I've been doing and trying to tell stories through characters, but now want to do it in capturing events that were happening that represented mission statements.
Okay. So a lot of the youth that we work with are in middle and high school. Do you think you started discovering this around that time period, or it was later in life?
Oh yeah, definitely. I started taking pictures, I think in elementary school, high school. It was pretty early on. And obviously now with phone cameras and digital devices, you know, you have access without the sort of upfront cost of developing. Um, so I think taking pictures can obviously happen at any age. You know, it's great to see kids starting to carry around cameras and look at the world around them and frame it as a starting place.
Mhm. Oh, wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And you mentioned theater. It helped propel you into this. When were you involved with theater?
Well, I had gone through high school and college studying theater and liberal arts, and then I did go back and get a master's degree in directing. So I was really doing that through my through my 20s into my early 30s, was primarily directing theater. So uh, maybe in my early 30s, sort of segued into photography professionally.
Okay. Okay. Hmm. What do you love most about your job?
I love that every day is different. I really love the diversity of people and organizations and events that I cover. You know, it's an ongoing learning experience, and you know, puts me in the path of a lot of different communities and a lot of different again missions and objectives for who I'm working for. So I do love the eclectic and diverse and wide ranging client base that I have and things that I get to do on a daily basis.
Hmm. Is that part of what drew you to being a freelance photographer and
Yeah,
videographer?
definitely. You know, the beauty of freelance is you're your own boss, um, and you have like many employers in a way that you work with very many clients and one of the great challenges is sort of figuring out what their needs are and how you can find images or video that will support what they're trying to do.
Hmm. Okay. Uh, what are the biggest challenges of your job? So the flip side of what you love most.
Well, photography and video is constantly evolving and changing, and definitely in the last decade, you know, we've seen what images and videos mean transform, and the technology obviously is just constantly being updated. So now that images are ubiquitous and prosumer cameras are so accessible to anyone who wants to record, or that the nature of it is shifting. So one of the challenges is really to sort of build the plane while you're flying, uh, finding out what is going to be around the bend, or what visual support needs will people have or companies have now that everyone has a cell phone. You know, is it becoming more for a professional photographer? Is it more about orchestrating those images, things that people can't just set up and take with their phone, or is it I don't know. It is again, like I said, it's constantly changing. So
Right. That does sound challenging, and new technology comes out all the time. And then I think as something this is geared towards youth, I mean, youth are constantly on top of all the changes too. So thank you for sharing that. What does a day-to-day look like for you? So what does a typical day at work look like? I know you mentioned that
that
what is
is
the thing you love
really
about
great
the job that
is
is
it
different
changes. Yeah. Um,
about
uh,
what you normally do?
so what is great is working with different nonprofits and individuals. So each place that I go to will be different, but it alternates between shooting photography and video and editing.
Mhm,
So either I'm out in the field and on a job, or I'm in my office and processing
mhm.
the footage and the still images from the day before.
Okay. About how long does each of these jobs take? Does it vary? Is there
Oh
about?
yeah, yeah, sure. You know, project lengths could be you go out and you shoot something for a few hours, to if you're working on a video for an organization, it could take weeks or even months.
Okay.
So, and then, you know, short jobs they'll want it turned around in 24 hours. So kind of depends.
Fast turnaround. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So part of the purpose of Tech at Work
Mhm.
is to bring gender diverse role models in a variety of industries to these students. And so one thing we always like to ask is how gender influences your work and your experience. So have you had any challenges from being a woman in this career field, or you haven't found that to be the case?
No, both photography and video are still very much male dominated.
Mm-hmm.
So companies and organizations tend to have far more male representation and a male point of view. Um, there because it's a technical skill, the sexism comes into play in a lot of subtle ways in terms of the assumption that women aren't as technically facile or savvy or a bias toward it making something more techy than intuitive or an art form or so yeah, the sexism still is very much at play. There are certain jobs where I feel like you can sense that feel more they have an assumption that men know how to use a camera better than a female, so it is still out there.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing, and I think it's really important that the students are able to be introduced to a
Yeah,
variety of people who are successful here in Vermont, in our community, and really see that any career path is open to people who are strong. Thank you for sharing. And last question, just to wrap it up, do you have any advice for these students? So these are middle schoolers and high schoolers.
start right away. I mean, you can pick up a camera or you can start storyboarding and sketching and taking notes. And the Media Factory, where I work, there is no age limitation. If you live in Chittenden County, you can become a member, though there are, of course, public access stations all over the state. But even an elementary school aged student could come in, become a member, and take out equipment. It works similar to a lending library, so you have access to equipment to go out and start shooting right away. And I did see recently there's a wonderful photography nonprofit in southern Vermont, Insight Photo, and they're posting a weekly challenge. So there's a lot of resources out there,
Mm-hmm.
and where gender and age is not a limitation at all, and that really the best way to learn is just to start doing.
Well, thank you. It sounds like there are a lot of resources there to support anyone who wants to get involved into this career field. That's great. Thank you for sharing, and thank you so much for joining us as a Tech at Work online speaker and for being flexible about Zooming and all of that. So
Yeah,
thank
of course.
you. Okay, just to wrap it up, in case you're viewing this with your teacher, here are a few suggested discussion questions that you might be interested in reviewing, although this is up to each individual teacher. Thank you so much for joining us.